Kayla Spelling. Kentucky-born, wild-haired, green-eyed, and endlessly creative. By day, I'm a photographer and videographer, but by night, I'm a midnight designer, always chasing the next story to tell. As an Aquarian sun and lifelong creative junkie, my passion for visual storytelling has taken me across industries, working with incredible minds who push the boundaries of art, media, and self-expression. But what drives them? What sparks their journey beyond the typical 9-to-5 grind? That's what we're here to explore. This season, we're diving even deeper into the creative universe. Spirituality, writing, tattooing, culinary arts, travel, music, media, and so much more. Expect surprises, real talk, and inspiration to fuel your own creative path. So, are you ready for another wild ride? Let's do this. Welcome back, Creative Junkies, to the Creative Junk Podcast. I'm your host, Kayla, and today we have a special treat for you. Joining us is the brilliantly witty and talented author, JoAnna Illingworth. JoAnna is known for her funny, swoon-worthy love stories that always promise a happy ending. She resides in Nashville suburbia with her very funny husband and even funnier 2 boys. Since her last visit, JoAnna has been on a creative spree, releasing 3 captivating books. Her latest, Pretty Perfect, is set to release on April 8th this year. This Southern comedy is a delightful blend of beauty pageant drama and laugh-out-loud shenanigans, reminiscent of Drop Dead Gorgeous meets Pretty Little Liars. Set in the picturesque town of Friendly, Tennessee, the Miss Friendly pageant is a beloved institution. The story follows June Bell, who has spent 18 years perfecting her beauty walk, runway interview questions, and practicing her one-woman handbell solo. As more contestants are injured in strange accidents, suspicions point to June and her inflated ambition. With the pageant days away, tensions amount, friendships are tested, and June must figure out who's attacking the pageant or lose a crown she was born to win. I am making sure that I say all of this because when we recorded this interview with JoAnna, it was last year, it was last fall, and she hadn't even mentioned this book yet in our interview. But due to personal things going on in my life, I had to set some time aside, and I wasn't able to put out this podcast episode until now. So I just wanted to make sure that I mentioned this latest book that JoAnna has written that is going to be coming out very shortly. JoAnna's journey from our days at Provident Label Group, a record label under Sony Music, to becoming a celebrated author is truly inspiring. Her love for all things Doctor Who and her passion for storytelling have always been evident. I'm just so thrilled to have her back on the show and to dive into her creative process and the inspirations behind her recent works. So without further ado, let's welcome back the fabulous JoAnna Illingworth. Yeah, it is like total Friday energy right now, man. But it's fine. So here we are. We are back at the Creative Junk Podcast. JoAnna and I basically did a whole episode already, not recording. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding. It was great. Yeah. So sorry, you guys. You all missed it.
It was
sorry.
A good one. You missed it.
We'll paraphrase. It's fine. It's fine. No, but I'm so excited to have you back on the podcast because since we last talked, you have 2 books that are out, which I knew there was one coming. And so I was already excited about that. And then when I look on Instagram, I feel like a week after I got Amelia and I saw there was another book and I was so excited. So I just kind of want to talk to you about this, starting with the Black Umbrella, going into Amelia's journey, which loved it. And I do want to say this before I forget. When I got Amelia's, I was kind of nervous about reading it. I'm not going to lie, because when I read the first book, we just didn't get a lot of time with Amelia. So I was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel with spending time with Amelia for a whole book. She wasn't my favorite right away, but again, didn't have a lot of time. I fell in love with her right away. She's just that character. She's so ridiculous, so over the top, so driven. And she was a blast. So I have to say, loved her. 10 out of 10.
I love to hear that. That's an interesting thought. I'll talk about that. But I did not plan to write a sequel. The truth is, readers asked for it. And so for a while, I was thinking about, okay, if I wrote one, what would it be? And I thought through a lot of different ideas. And I was watching 1882. Is that the right name? The TV show 1882. That's like a spinoff from Yellowstone. And, it's very traveling the Oregon Trail, Wild West, all of that. And the daughter, and forgive me, I'm not thinking of the character's name, but the teenage daughter in that show just to me felt so much like Amelia. And, just like you said, very spirited, very knows what she wants, very smart mouth, but in a fun way. And that's when I thought, what if I wrote a Amelia story and she goes to the Wild West? And so then when I started writing it, honestly, it was the most fun I've had writing a book, because she's so fun and the setting was really like, it was just nonstop adventure. Like something's happening all the time. And so it was really, really fun to write. And I love her, and I loved her. I loved writing her in the Black Umbrella, but you're right, she's not in it very much. I knew her really well just because of, I wrote the character, but I loved her getting her own moment because I think she's such a fun person. And I loved, the love interest and the adventure aspect and all of it. I just thought it was really fun. And I hope readers like it too. So far, readers have liked it, but
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me. I wrote it really fast. For me, I'm not a fast writer. Some people are really fast writers. I'm not, but I wrote it really fast. And I just think I think it is really, I think it's a good complement to the Black Umbrella. They can kind of both be read as a standalone. You don't have to read one to read the other, but I just think it's fun. I like to read books. I read serious books. I read, deeply emotional books. I read dramatic, scary, I read everything, but I love reading books that are just fun. And I wanted Amelia Goes West to just be really fun. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am with books too. If you like look at my library, it's an assortment. It's just kind of like what I'm in the mood for, because I absolutely love horror and sci-fi. So of course I got a collection of that. But then I also just really like young adult, where it's just like fun and you're just immersed in, maybe the romance stuff is predictable or whatever. It's like reading ACOTAR, right? It's like, like it may be a little predictable. Yeah, it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast in the first one, whatever. But like it's still fun. It's a fantasy world, and we can escape, and so I really enjoy those. And yours was just really fun. Now, did you have to do any research, like
I did
more research with because this is like pretty heavy in like the Oregon Trail stuff?
I did a lot of research for the Black Umbrella just to get things right, like what kind of clothes did they wear and what kind of food did they eat. But I also, give the disclaimer, it's not historically, like, don't come looking for historical accuracy. But, I do try to at least get it somewhat right. And for this one, I did really look at, what did the women wear on the Oregon Trail? What did they eat? What did they, and of course I take liberties because the Oregon Trail was much darker than even I portrayed it.
Yeah.
Much, much darker. And I wanted this to be light and fun. But, I did look into a lot of what it was like at that time for those people. And the biggest thing to me was they ate a lot of roadkill, essentially. I mean, it wasn't roadkill, but, they ate a lot of kind of rodent, squirrel, that kind of stuff. And also the women wore these long sleeved, multi-layered skirt wool dresses and walked. Most of them did not ride in the wagons, they walked. And the men drove the wagons, and the kids would either walk or ride in the back of the wagon if there was room, because they had all their belongings back there. But
could you imagine in your Tennessee weather, like walking around in a freaking cotton long sleeve dress in the summer?
No.
Like, what?
No, you could barely do that in the winter in Tennessee, honestly.
That's
And
true. That's
yeah,
true.
so I loved, and that was fun for me because like Amelia is obviously a modern girl who lives in Tennessee. And so when they're like, hey, put on this dress, she's like, do you have a short sleeve version? And they're like, are you crazy? So it was really, you know, because she has to be faced with all of these normal things at the time that for her are anything but normal. But you also think about, you know, the kids at that, or the kids, the people at that time and how they moved throughout the world. And it's wild to think about. It's wild to think about walking the entire Oregon Trail. And
Yeah.
they did. They walked all day long and then they slept at night and then they got up and they kept walking until they
And
got
they
to
like
the
hoped
coast.
hoped for the best, that their
Yeah.
camp wasn't going to be invaded or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Sickness, violence. I mean, yeah, any number of things. I mean, when I was researching it, it was it was pretty bleak because most people just didn't make it the whole way. There was very
Yeah.
few that made it the whole. Now, enough obviously made it the whole way that they, you know, established a society, but it so many people didn't make it. And I did have, you know, spoiler, there's a few deaths in the book, even though it's a very fun, you know, it's a fun book, but there are a few deaths. And some of my friends would talk about, they were so mad at me about certain characters who did not make it. And I was like, look, it's the Oregon Trail. Like
Right.
you can't, everybody can't make it on the Oregon Trail. Some people
Right.
are,
Then it's like you might as well have Jesus walking by you to
right.
like
Yeah. I was like,
path
we're
your
not all
way
going
of
to make
like
it.
peace. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you know, you have to balance in a book like that. You have to balance the reality with the story you want to tell. So,
Yeah.
you know, there has to be a little bit of that. Darkness isn't the right word, but you know, a little bit of that reality of what it was like
Sure.
balanced with, but you're also trying to tell this fun, you know, romance story. So hopefully I found that balance in there because it's tricky. It's tricky to do that
Yeah.
because you don't, you know, you don't want to be goofy, but you also don't, for me, I don't want to tell a really dark story. So, you know, it was working to find having enough of both that it's a good combo.
Yeah, I never really thought about it that way, but you're absolutely right. Finding that balance, because it's like you want people to really empathize with the characters, and especially given the historical significance of the time. But in the same sense, like, yeah, this you don't want it. You're not writing a drama,
Right.
right? Like you've
Yeah.
got a girl who's wearing a sequence dress falling
Right.
into the Wild West with an umbrella. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
We're already
So,
not in reality. So, you know,
right.
it can be a little bit wacky, but yeah. So I tried to add in enough that it made sense at least.
And so how has feedback been about the book so far?
Good. It it hasn't it hasn't been selling as well as the Black Umbrella, so I don't know what I need to do to fix that. But those who have read Amelia, I mean, the feedback's been great. The reviews and comments and people that have messaged me, they love just what you said. They love Amelia, and they think the
Yeah.
story's so fun. So good so far.
Good. That's awesome.
People
Well,
want
let's
a third. They want, if you know the character Pepper Jones.
oh, I feel like he has to though. Like all of his friends, he's
I
the
know.
time guy, right? Like
I
time
know.
travel guy. Poor guy hasn't done shit, whereas everybody else has gotten to have these adventures. So yeah, I
I
agree.
know.
I feel like Pepper needs it.
Well, we need to sell some more Amelia Goes West so I can write a Pepper book. So if you want a
Yes.
Pepper book, tell your friends about Amelia so
All
we can
right.
have a Pepper book.
Yes, justice for Pepper on
Yeah,
this one.
I get it. I get it.
Yes, I love it. Well, let's talk about your other one because again, that one it was such a surprise to me, and I was so excited. And you and I, with our relationship, we worked at a record label together. So this book for me, I was like, oh, okay. So it piqued my interest.
Yeah.
So tell me about that and where all of that inspiration came.
Well, I wrote it over. I mean, I wrote a version of it, I should say, a few years ago. I was just really interested in telling a story from my experience working in the music industry for so many years. And I love the idea of telling a story of artists in Nashville and that sort of vibe, that sort of growing up, in that way. Because I think the music scene in New York and the music scene in LA are very specific, and the music scene in Nashville is very specific, and not even country music. There's, I mean, as you know, there's all kinds of genres in Nashville. Everybody associates it with country music, which is right. But there's so many genres of music. It really is Music City, because there's all kinds of music in Nashville. And so I had just always been interested in telling a story based in Nashville about artists. And I'd been working on it for a long time. And just after Amelia Goes West came out, I just pulled it back out and said, I'm going to keep working on this. And the more that I worked on it, I got really excited about it and had a few friends read it, and they were really excited about it. So it came out really fast, but I'd been working on it for a long time, so.
Yeah.
And I loved the idea of writing an adult rom-com that, again, is just really fun. I love to write books that are fun and make you smile and make you laugh. Hopefully.
Absolutely. So can you, just for listeners, can you mention the name of the book and just kind of like a brief synopsis of this book?
Yeah, it's an adult rom-com. It's called Don't You Want Me? And it's about two competing artists in Nashville who end up on tour together. And so in the beginning of the book, the main character, her name's Marigold, she she has a very famous pop star sister who she does not want people to associate her with. Like, she's trying to distance herself from her pop star sister's, megawatt persona. And so she's in Nashville trying to make her own way in an honest, sincere way to her own songwriting and her own art. She goes through a breakup, ends up at a party, is feeling, a little lost, ends up meeting this guy who she doesn't even know his name, just meeting this guy. They end up making out. She leaves the party. She thinks she'll never see him again. She goes to audition for a summer tour for this big band that's going on tour for the summer. And the guy from the party is at the audition, which just turns her world upside down. It turns her world upside down. And they end up both going on the tour. And that's really the bulk of the book, is the two of them on tour together. And she has some family secrets and situations she has to discover. And the guy, main character's name's Kick Rains. He also has some, things from his past that he has to work through. So they're both kind of together discovering who they want to be, who they are, and who they want to be together, as well as on their own. And it's funny, and it's super flirty, tons of banter. It's really fun.
Love it. Love good banter.
Yeah. That's been a big feedback from readers, is how much they love the banter between the main characters, which I love because I worked really hard on that. So I love to hear that feedback.
Guess what? It's that time. Time to hit pause and catch a special message from one of our awesome sponsors. Step into a world of magic and rejuvenation with Wicked Obscura, a women-owned apothecary and candle shop based in Covington, Kentucky. As one of the proud owners, I can tell you, we pour our hearts into everything we create, blending nature's power with spiritual wellness in every handcrafted product. Our candles, made from a coconut soy blend and infused with herbs and crystals, offer more than just an unforgettable scent. They bring peace, magic, and good vibes into any space. With crackling wood wicks and safe ingredients, each candle fills your home with a touch of light and enchantment. Are you ready to experience the true essence of Wicked Obscura? Use code CreativelyWicked for 15% off your next purchase. Shop at wickedobscura.com and let the magic begin. Yeah, exactly. It's like this isn't like on that extreme spectrum, but it is very much that like enemies to lovers kind of scenario, where it's just like that's just like a thing that people just love. It's just that like fiery bickering and like animosity, but then it's like heated because you know that they both really, really like each other.
Yeah.
And like it's fun. It's absolutely fun.
Yeah, and I like that he very much, and this isn't a spoiler, but he very much pursues her and likes her the whole time. And it's very, very flirty, but he's in. and she keeps putting him off and being sassy and, you know, saying no way. And he just keeps on keeping on and letting her know exactly what he thinks and how he feels. And I've gotten feedback about that too from readers, that they really love that he is so, well, I'll say this. I wouldn't classify this book as a rock star romance, because a lot of rock star romances are more of the bad boy,
Yeah.
darker themes a lot of times. Not always, but you know, it's a lot of drugs and alcohol and kind of that rock star vibe. This book is not that. But I have had some readers say, like I had one reader say that, you know, she doesn't typically read rockstar romance because they can get so dark. And she loved that this one wasn't that, and that the male main character was, I think she called him a teddy bear. But, you know, like he's still a rock star, but he's not that sort of, you know, and again, there's nothing wrong with those stories, and people love those stories, but this is very different. This is definitely a rom-com. It's funny, it's fun, it's light, it's very flirty, you know. So it's in the rock star genre, but a little different.
Yeah. So did Mr. Tim Parker do the cover?
He did. Yes. So the same artist who did the cover for the Black Umbrella and Amelia Goes West did this cover, and I think he nailed it as usual. I loved it.
Yeah. Right. Like there was any doubt, you know, like you just give him a prompt and it's always gold.
Here,
so.
I'll show it. It's part of my what's propping up my phone. But I will show. Here's the cover.
Yeah.
So it's the two artists on tour, and they're looking at each other while they're on stage. I love it. I thought you did a great job.
Oh yeah.
So the plan is, we will see, but the plan is to have a series, because this book is, I called it a Music City rom-com, and the plan is to have a series of Music City rom-coms. So they'll be interconnected stories. So same world, but each book will be a standalone. You know, like the main characters from Don't You Want Me may show up in the next book, but the next book won't be about them. It'll be about somebody else. So.
Oh, that's super fun. I love that.
Yeah. So I'm working on the next book now. It's still very much developmental. What's it going to be? But that's in the works.
Well, I think what's really cool, going back to our first episode that we did together, and just being part of my small little part of your beginning journey, like working with you and just hearing your initial idea of the Black Umbrella. What I think is really cool, and what I've seen a shift from the last discussion, is like now it's like go with you. It's like you're getting the idea and you just have the confidence and you're just writing it and you're putting it out there, and it's like whatever. Like I feel good about it. I love it. I'm putting it out there. If you guys like it, great. If not, whatever. I'm here for it. And I love that. Like that's so exciting and it's so inspiring, because I feel like as creatives we put so many like blocks on ourselves about like, oh, I don't know, I don't think they're going to like this, or this might be too much, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we got to just break that. It's just, we got to just like feel what we feel, go with our artist intuition and just create. Right. And you're doing that. Like you're getting the ideas and you're writing them.
Yeah. The you know, for so long, and we talked about this in the last episode, but for so long, I worked really hard to break into traditional publishing, and for a host of reasons that didn't work out. But the main driver for a lot of authors that I know to breaking into traditional publishing is having that vote of confidence, you know, is having a publishing house or an editor, whomever, say, yes, this is good and I believe in it, you know, and that is so valuable. So for me, publishing the Black Umbrella was you know, like you said, it was just a huge leap into the unknown and believing in myself and hoping for the best. And I think for me, reader response was that vote of confidence.
Right.
And, you know, it was that stamp of approval, like, yes, this is good. So that really helped me keep going, because you know, I had been waiting so long for a publisher to say yes. And then when I put the Black Umbrella out, readers said yes. And really, readers are who matter anyway. in indie publishing or traditional publishing. If you don't have
Of
readers,
course.
you don't got anything. So
Yeah.
that reader feedback on the Black Umbrella really inspired me to keep going and excuse me, and to write Amelia Goes West, and then to try my hand at adult rom-coms. So yeah, that was really I don't know if you would call it a turning point, but kind of a turning point to say, yeah, I'm going to keep going and keep doing this because I love it, and other people love it enough for me to keep going, so it's been great.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So with this one, was there any, like, I haven't read it yet, so, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
But was there, like, a lot of inspiration that you pulled, like maybe hearing stories from bands or artists that you've worked with, or just like kind of being around, like when there's like productions taking place and things like that, that like kind of gave you some inspiration for some scenes or?
Yeah, I mean, like there's a couple of scenes on a tour bus, and I mean, I've traveled on a tour bus numerous times with artists that I've worked with, and like understanding the process that happens backstage before a show, and I understand that process, and so I can put those elements in there. And I mean, but for my music industry friends and like you, it's not 100% accurate. It's kind of like with Amelia Goes West. You put enough in that it's realistic, but you're still true to the story. So there are a lot of elements that I think music industry people would recognize as, oh yeah, that's really how it is. And there will also be things that are like, that's not how it is, but it's for the story. You know what I mean? So, things like the opening band watching the headliner from the sound booth. Things like there's arrows on the floor telling you which way to catering and which way to the dressing room.
Mm-hmm.
There's tape on the floor made into an arrow, stuff like that. I tried to put in elements that are realistic to being on tour, while also not making it a documentary. It's definitely a
Right.
it's definitely a fun romance. But yeah, there's tons of realistic life on tour stuff. And I'm because I'm going to do a series of these books, I think there'll also be perspective of working at a label and perspective of, living in Nashville and things like that. So I'll be able to pepper my experience into each book and to keep it, realistic enough that it's believable as a story about an artist in Nashville.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So we're towards the end here. So is there anything that you just want to leave listeners with? I know we mentioned where they can find you, which at the end of the episode, I'll share social links and stuff like that, and come see you in person and just hang out because you're a good time anyways. But is there anything else that you want to leave these listeners with?
I mean, I would say, first of all, if you're a writer and you're feeling, writing can be a very lonely endeavor because, it's not oftentimes the work that you're doing, you're just doing it by yourself. And it's really hard to get, like when you're a songwriter, you can play a song for somebody in 3 minutes and 4 minutes. When you're writing a novel, if you ask someone to read it for you, it's going to take longer than 3 or 4 minutes. So it can be a very isolating, lonely pursuit, especially if you're trying to get started. And my advice would be to seek out other writers because they know exactly what you're going through, and also just keep going because once you have that book in your hand, all of it is worth it. All the work and all the tears and all the doubts are very worth it. And also, if you're not a writer and you're just a reader, I would say if you like fun, funny, flirty books, you should check out my books.
Yeah.
My first two, The Black Umbrella and Amelia Goes West, are young adult, but also I have a lot of adult readers who enjoy them. So I would say it's for both audiences. And then Don't You Want Me is more of an adult rom-com, but just really fun. Like if you need something to get your mind off of current events, which, for the past few years have been a little dark. My books are a good, fun escape.
JoAnna, thank you so much for coming back again,
No, thank
hanging
you. I
out
love
with
it.
me. Yeah, no, oh my God, when I heard about Amelia coming out, it was like the first thing I did was I got on Amazon. I was like, I got to support my friend. So I got my book and it got sent here in Belgium. So like, let's look at that global book reading.
I love it.
And so now I have another book I got to get. So I'm really excited. So
here's the new one. Don't You Want Me? And
yes.
that's the Music City rom-com. And then here's Amelia Goes West, which is a very fun.
Oh, it's so good.
Wild
I
West
love that cover.
Oregon Trail adventure. So check them both out.
Absolutely. And I'm so proud of you. Really. Like just absolutely so proud of you.
That's so nice.
You've been killing
Thank you.
it.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome. All right. Thank you, JoAnna.
Thanks, y'all.
This podcast is brought to you by Mind Junk Creative, a creative agency that brings your wildest ideas to life. They dig through your mind junk to uncover those throwaway thoughts and turn them into bold, unforgettable brand stories. Ready to discover your story? Head over to mindjunkcreative.com and give them a follow on Instagram for all the creative goodness. A huge thank you to JoAnna for joining us again and sharing her journey, her creative process, and all of the behind the scenes fun of her books. I don't know about you, but I am beyond excited for this new release in April of Pretty Perfect, because who doesn't love a mix of beauty pageant drama, mystery, and laugh out loud chaos? And if you're as hyped as I am, be sure to pre-order Pretty Perfect and follow JoAnna on social media for all the latest updates on her books. I'll have all the links in the show notes over at creativejunkpodcast.com, so you definitely can't miss out. And hey, if you loved this episode, let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at It's Mind Junk. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you? What's your favorite way to channel creativity? And also, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform, because seriously, it does help so much. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Guys, keep creating, keep exploring, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay inspired and stay creative. Did you love this episode? Let's keep the creative vibes flowing on Instagram and Facebook. We'll dish about the latest interviews, swap wild ideas, and catch up on all the creative madness. Plus, head over to creativejunkpodcast.com for show notes and all the juicy resources your creative soul craves. Thank you for hanging out with me. Let's keep the creative party going. And hey, thank you for listening.